Today's lesson is on volume and surface area and covers pages 56 and 57. We're starting by figuring out the top. What two numbers do we need to multiply? So the top would be 6 times 5 centimeters, which gives us 30 centimeters squared. So if we're finding the front, what two numbers do we need to multiply?
6 and 4.
So 6 times 4, and that gives us 24 centimeters squared. What should my next step be? To find the right side, we'd multiply 5 centimeters times 4 centimeters, which gives us 20 centimeters squared. Now what would my next step be? So to find the back, it's going to be the same as the front, so it'll be 6 times 4, which gives us 24 centimeters squared. The left is going to be the same as the right, so we'll multiply 5 by 4, which once again gives us 20. And then I know that the bottom will be the same as the top. So for that one, I'll multiply 6 centimeters by 5 centimeters, which gives me 30 centimeters squared. What is my last step? So now I need to add all of these separate areas together. So if we add them all up, we get 148 centimeters squared. So this would be our surface area for the whole shape. I'm only giving you examples for some of the questions. So for question number 3, we need to figure out which of the faces can you add and multiply by 2 to get the surface area. Because we can take 3 sides and double it, but we have to choose which ones. So if I take the top, the bottom, and the right side, if I multiply that by 2, will I get the surface? We know that this one can't because the top and the bottom are the same thing. So we don't have 3 different sides that we can double, right? We need either one of the top and the bottom, one of the left and the right, and one of the front and the back. What about the next one? If we have the top, the right, and the front, can we add those ones and multiply by 2? We can use these ones because there's no duplicates here. What about the bottom, left, and front? Part of what I think about as I do this is the bottom, the opposite is the top. Is the top also in the list? No, it's by itself. The left, the opposite would be the right. Is the right also in the list? No. The front, the opposite would be the back. Is the back also in the list? No. So we have the 3 different distinct sides. So this one would work. What about the top, left, and back? This one would work. Bottom, right, and left. This one can't work because the right and the left are the same. And then we have bottom, front, and top. Would this one work? The bottom and the top match, so we can't use this one. So there's just 3 of these examples that we can use. Okay, question 4 will ask you to find the missing length. So they've given you the area of the rectangle. This is a 2-dimensional shape. They've given you 1 dimension and we need to fill in the other. What do we need to do? The area equals length times width. We have to fill in what we know. So do we know what the area is? Yeah, so it is 20 meters squared. Do we know what the length is? 4 meters. And do we know what the width is? No. How can we get the question mark by itself? So we'll need to divide both sides by 4 meters. So when we do this, 20 meters squared divided by 4 meters is 5 meters. And then 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that cancels out, so we're just left with our question mark. So our missing side is 5 meters. Question 5 asks you to find the missing edge length. So they have told us that this length is 5, this is 7, we need to figure out this depth here, but they've told us the whole area of this side is 30 meters squared. So what could our first step be? So if we know that 30 meters squared equals something times 5 meters, how could we figure out what the something is? We're going to divide both sides by 5. So if we have 30 meters squared divided by 5 meters, then 30 divided by 5 is 6 meters equals our blank. So 6 is our answer for this one. Okay, number 6 is a little bit challenging. So they've shown us the 3 sides, and we have to figure out the possible lengths of A, of C, and of B. Some of you may be able to just look and go, I think this works. I'm going to give you a systematic breakdown. So if we have 6 meters squared, we know this has to be C times B. So what are our possible options for C and B? We could have 2 times 3. We could also have 6 times 1. And we could flip these two around, right? 3 times 2 and 1 times 6. Now, for the 12 meters squared, it needs to be A times C, right? So what are our options? We could have 6 times 2. We could have 3 times 4. We could have 1 times 12. And we could do the reverse of all of these, right? 2 times 6, 4 times 3, and 12 times 1. We also have our list for 18, which is A times B. So if we look at this, A times B could be 3 times 6. It could be 2 times 9. It could be 1 times 18. And we could reverse all these as well, right? 6 times 3, 9 times 2, and 18 times 1. So now I just kind of start piecing things apart and erasing if I need to. I can guess and check. So if I looked at A and I'm going to try, okay, let's look at 3. If A was 3, what would B have to be? B would have to be 6. And if B is 6, then C would have to be 1, but it would also have to be 4. So can this work? No. So I'm going to cross out this as an option and erase my little yellow numbers. So then I could try 2. Okay, well, if I said this was 2 and this was 9, can C be anything? No, there's nothing times 9 that will give me 6, so that doesn't work either. What if it's 1? Okay, let's try 1 here, which means this is 18. Will that work? No. I could try 6. So if I have 6 and 3, that gives me 18. Then if I have 2 here, 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 times 2 is 12. So that works for all of them, right? So those would be our numbers. So if you can just see and guess that, that is totally fine. But if you need a systematic breakdown, here is one way you could make that work. Number 8 asks you to write a formula for the surface area of a prism using length, width, and height. What could our formula possibly be? So to find the surface area, we'd need a front, a left, and a top. And we would need to multiply all of that by 2 to get the surface area. So now we can replace these with the letters we would need to multiply by. So what would I multiply by to get the front? So we could do length times height, could be the front, plus to get, maybe instead of left, we'll do the right, because we can actually see that side. What numbers would I multiply to get the right? So we'd multiply height times width, and then to get the top, we would need to multiply, length times width, and I can do their little handwriting L, and then we'd need to multiply all of this by 2 to get the surface area. Okay? In question number 10, a box has a shape of a right prism and a regular hexagon for its base. So the right prism just means it's not askew, right? The two bases are directly on top of each other. The sides on the base are 5 centimeters long and the box is 10 centimeters high. The area of the base is 260 centimeters squared. How many faces of each type does the box without the lid have? So there'll be 6 rectangles because a hexagon has 6 sides. So each side will need its own rectangle. Now, part B asks us to sketch the faces and write the dimensions on each face. So I can start by sketching a hexagon. What does it say the side length of each side is? So when it says the sides in the base are 5 centimeters long, that means each side of this hexagon is 5 centimeters, okay? Now, for the rectangles, the shorter side is going to match the hexagon, right? So how long would the short edge of the rectangle be? So it would also be 5 centimeters because it's connecting to each of those edges. And from the question, what do we know the other side length is going to be? It's 10 centimeters. Because the box is 10 centimeters high, then these two sides are the part that's going up and down. Now, there is also a part C. Look how sneaky I am. So it asks you to find the surface area of the box without the lid. So if my first step is to find the hexagon, do I know what the area of the hexagon is? So we don't have to do any calculations for this because they've already told us in the question it is 260 centimeters squared, right? Now, for the area of the rectangle, what two numbers do I need to multiply? 5 times 10, which gives us 50. Now, how many rectangles do I have? 6. So I need to multiply that 50 by 6. So that's going to give us 300. And what should I add on to the 300? Plus 260, and that should give us 560 centimeters squared. So this is your final answer for the surface area. Now, the last question we're going to go over today as a class is getting us to find the volume. Well, they've given us the volume and we need to find the missing edge. So where could we start? So we know that volume is the same thing as length times width times height, right? And they've given us the volume is 84 meters cubed. I wrote down the wrong number there. So if we have our length is 7 and our width is unknown and our height is 4, then we can put those numbers together, right? 84 meters cubed, 7 times 4 is 28 times the width. We need to divide both sides by 28 meters squared. And then 84 divided by 28 is 3. 28 divided by 28 is 1, so it's 1 width. So it is 3 meters. So we just have to figure out which number are we missing to multiply to get the original volume.